Hey guys, and welcome to It's Our Podcast Show with Stephen and Winston. And today we have a special guest, Jacob Freeman from EVGA. For those who don't know, EVGA is an American computer-based hardware company that produces Nvidia GPU graphics cards, as well as motherboards and gaming accessories. We'll be talking to Jacob about some of the EVGA's latest, newest products, and of course, EVGA, what has they got in store for the future. So, a little banter before we go ahead. As you know, I'm in the UK right now visiting family, and I have to say, I'm pretty impressed with my mobile setup. Mobile streaming, of course, and of course, I'll be doing some of the live shows lately from my nephew's bedroom. And I have to give myself 5 out of 5 for that. How about you, Steve? What have you been up to?
I have the best 2 parts of Star Trek Strange New Worlds on my face. I have the Sam Kirk's mustache, and I have the Pike's Peak.
Ah, yeah, the mustache, the kind of like 80s mustache, man. Okay, cool. So let's get introduction with Jacob. So Jacob, please tell our audience and our viewers who you are, where you're from, and what you do at EVGA.
Yes, so I am Jacob, as mentioned earlier, product director at EVGA. I've been with EVGA for over 16 years. So it's been quite some time. I've seen a lot of generations of graphics cards, a lot of games. It's been a while. I'm an old guy now. So yeah, we are based in Southern California, Orange County area in particular. EVGA has been in business for almost 23 years, actually, since 1999.
Congratulations.
And actually, the end July 16th. So this week will be EVGA's 23rd anniversary. So we're working on some anniversary events on our website. We usually have like lots of giveaways and stuff. We're working on that. So stay tuned for that. We'll have lots of giveaways and fun stuff later this week. In addition to that, so I work on our product lines, so working with our team on new products, supporting existing products, also work with a lot of our customers, end users who need support. So yeah, a lot of, it's a 24/7 job, but it's a lot of fun.
So I have a really good question, and this is something that might be interesting to the audience as well, too. You work with Nvidia, obviously, and they produce the reference design, they produce the chips, they provide allocation to all the vendors, et cetera, et cetera. How do you decide how to differentiate your product over, say, all the other brands? Like what is the decision-making process for EVGA when it comes down to, okay, we need to be a little bit different. How do we do that?
Yeah, so I would say the key thing with EVGA is since day one, EVGA has really been involved in the community. So we take a lot of community feedback about what gamers want to see. So, we pay attention to our social channels. We have a daily or weekly, I'm glad it's not daily, weekly Twitch stream as well, which we learn a lot, about people, what people are looking for. We're very involved in our community. We've had forums that are pretty active almost since day one of the company. So definitely the community feedback has been a big part of the company's DNA. So we usually take always take a lot of that feedback and build it, craft it into the products. So what you see eventually on the shelf from EVGA is many years of feedback from customers. And if we're talking specifically about graphics cards, a lot of it is definitely RGB is a big part of it. I hate to lead with RGB, but definitely that is a big part of what people wanted to see from EVGA, in particular because some of our more earlier implementations were, I wouldn't say they weren't existing. It wasn't there, but they were a little basic previously. So if you look at like 30 series in particular, that is a huge upgrade in what we had before, just on the RGB. All right, so that's enough about RGB. But outside of RGB, definitely features like the cooling. We have really innovated on the cooling on many generations of cards, 20 series, 30 series, and we continue to iterate on that. So the latest generation of cards, we have a cooler called the ICX3. And ICX3 is actually very innovative. So one of the things that we did a few generations back is change the way the fans operate. And by that I mean a card usually has 3 fans or 2 fans. And traditionally the fans were running at a fixed speed. You know, one RPM. The GPU gets hotter, the fans spin faster. That's usually how it worked. With ICX3, we kind of rethought the logic of the way the fans operate. So on a graphics card, there's more than just a GPU. There's VRM, there's memory. They all get hot. They all need to be cooled. So with ICX, if we take a 3-fan card, what we did there is each fan is responsible for a different zone on the graphics card. So that fan is closer in proximity perhaps to the memory. So that fan monitors the memory temperature. So as the memory goes up, just that fan, instead of all 3 fans, just that fan can increase. So the card is, with ICX, is pretty smart. It knows the GPU temperature, it knows the memory temperatures, it knows the VRM temperatures, because those are all important to graphics cards' longevity, and more importantly, the performance. So the cooler you run it, the GPU, the memory, the higher the boost, the card is going to boost, and the better overclocking you will get.
Right. So it's almost like an addressable cooling system, right? Because you know when you have different parts of the cooler, and you can control what fan spins at what time, depending on the temperature, right? So yeah. Okay. Well, the graphics cards, EVGA has always been kind of like, you know, the sought after graphics card on the market due to some of your overclocking, you know, features. So tell us more about that, because I noticed you have like that special KingPin version, right? What makes that so special versus the other graphics cards, right? Tell us more.
So we have a lot of different versions of graphics cards. Some people may think it's a little overwhelming, but they're all different. Some have 3 fans, some have 2 fans, some have hybrid coolers. Hybrid cooler is a what we call, it's basically like a closed loop cooler for your graphics card. So people are pretty familiar with the closed loop cooler for your CPU. They're pretty effective, and we have a version that's called hybrid that is essentially that. It's a closed loop cooler graphics card. It's very efficient. It's significantly better than air cooling. Only downside is you got to make sure it can fit into your chassis, because it does have a radiator, you know. So, you know, if you have a small chassis, that might be a concern there. And then we have at the top of the line, we have the KingPin card, like you mentioned. The KingPin card is basically designed from the ground up to be the best overclocking performing card, period. You know, cost is of no concern on that card. You know,
it's very expensive.
It uses the highest quality of every component in order to eke the absolute most performance out of it. So usually those cards are pretty expensive because they have things like maybe a 10 or even 12 layer PCB, thicker PCB, better for overclocking, better for cooling PCB temperature. They have usually hand-picked GPUs that overclock better. The VRM power delivery system is extremely robust and overbuilt so that you can get the most power to the GPU for overclocking. So, you know, if you're just the normal user who plugs in the graphics card and plays their games, I probably wouldn't choose that card. Not that it wouldn't be good for it, but it's probably a little bit overkill for that.
Yeah, well, I see your graphics card, the KingPin one, break records, right? And that's like overclocking competition using liquid nitrogen and all sorts. But that's another story for overclocking. But yeah, definitely EVGA have always been really well known for the graphics cards, and I've always wanted one. Well,
may have to work on that.
Stephen.
So the KingPin card is obviously, it's going to be a little more hand assembled, right?
You mean from the like factory production?
From the factory. There's going to be a little more care, right?
Yeah, they are a little bit more specialized, so they definitely are a little bit more hand built. Like I said, even down to the GPU being hand selected as a good overclocking GPU. Because just like CPUs, you know, if you have 2 CPUs, let's say an Intel 12900K or whatever, they're both 12900K, but one may overclock a little bit better. You know, just that particular silicon just is a little bit better for overclocking. The same applies to GPUs as well, where two identical GPUs, one may just overclock a little bit better. Usually it's just a little bit, but that may be just enough, you know, to get a world record or, you know, get another couple frames per second out of your game. So if you're looking for the ultimate, that's it.
I know that one of my pet peeves with any pre-assembled product, be it handmade or not, is the amount of excessive waste of thermal paste. I've taken apart so many laptops, and just by looking at the thing, I'm like, oh my God, someone just took a spray gun and just slathered this stuff on here. It's not necessary. It's probably killing my performance. Are the KingPin cards a little bit better in that respect?
Well, they are kind of more carefully hand-built and assembled. So, you know, there's more attention to detail, I would say, on that card. But in general, I would say EVGA cards are, you know, we monitor the factory building procedure very closely. We have very strict SOPs, operating procedures for building, and that includes things like thermal paste, how much to use and where to use. So, you know, that is all very important to us, and definitely goes back to our previous discussion about how we're listening to the community, because that definitely is something that we hear from the community quite often in the past, especially. So
it's one of my pet peeves. I just needed to bring it up because I've seen it so often that it's like, did you even care? Right?
Yeah, and unfortunately, when you're building things in mass production, you know, if you're talking about a laptop where they're making 1 million of them, you know, or whatever, then, you know, sometimes some of that may get overlooked. So, you know, like I said,
some are better than others, right?
Yeah. So, right. So, and that comes down to their SOPs, their how good they're monitoring their factory lines. And so that definitely is a big priority for EVGA and has been for quite some time to make sure that all graphics cards, motherboards, whatever it is built to the best possible specifications.
Well, with the graphics
Love
card,
to hear that.
do they go through like a testing process where they go through like a 24-hour or 48-hour kind of run through before it's packaged?
So the cards are built, and there is a very extensive test procedure that is done after the cards are built. And this isn't just like a stress test. This is like it tests everything. It's a very customized piece of software that tests everything from like GPU, the fan speed to the output connectors on the card, and very minor little things that are being checked by this software that you can't check with like a normal stress test utility. So it's pretty extensive.
Cool.
And it takes a long time to run the test, to go through all the different tests that it has. It's like hundreds of tests that it does on the card to make sure that it is built to the correct specifications. So
I want to know a little bit more about your the software that you use, because I noticed you've been EVGA has been pushing that for the graphics cards. Is it called the X1 Precision, something like that?
Yeah, so it's called Precision X1, and that is a software that we came out with EVGA Precision many years ago, but it has continually evolved and improved and updated. And the latest version of it is called the EVGA Precision X1, and that is the software that you use to configure fan speeds, overclocking, RGB, back on RGB again, but yes, you can configure the RGB lighting through EVGA Precision as well. On some of the higher end cards like the KingPin, KingPin card has a little LCD screen on there that you can like put your own logo and stuff on there, and that one you can configure through EVGA Precision as well. It's pretty robust as well. Fan curves, you can customize that. It has an on-screen display overlay function, so you can monitor your temperatures, frame rates in game.
So apart from the monitoring, does the software also allows you to overclock the card?
Yes. So that was kind of the initial feature of the product. And it's kind of developed since then, but the overclocking is really the core of EVGA Precision. So it has GPU offsets, it has voltage control, it has memory overclocking, power target for increasing your maximum power target to the card, or lowering it if you wanted to save power.
Yeah.
So that is all built into Precision as well.
I want to know, does it have a one-button overclock? You know me, I love just to have a one-button overclock. Like, that's all I need. I don't want to change all the voltages and
yeah. So it has that as well, and that is a feature that is actually built into the Nvidia driver that can that companies like EVGA can take advantage of in the software, and it will test different VF curves on the card, or voltage frequency curves, and find a good overclock for your graphics card. So it can do that as well. But again, if you want to eke every little bit out of it, then manually is the way you want to go.
I think 90% of the population out there will want something like this because it's just easy, right? It's simple. You're getting and like you said, there's variants in the samples from the VRMs on the lower end, or the entry level cards, and people just want the most out of the most bang for the buck, right? So having this one button tries to help them find a safe way to get there, and I think that's very admirable that the entire industry overall. I mean, I remember software that another 3-letter brand came out with a long time ago that everyone was using to stress test their cards. It worked, sometimes it didn't, but that was many years ago. Now it seems like all the software actually does work because it has the ability to look at what you said there about the voltages of certain parts of the card and find that safe zone to bring it all the way up.
Yeah, definitely. And but even with the software and overclocking and auto overclocking, the Nvidia card by itself kind of actually does automatically overclock. So a few generations ago, Nvidia introduced a feature onto graphics card called GPU Boost, and GPU Boost is essentially an auto overclocking function of the card. However, instead of it predetermining in an overclock setting, it is overclocking on the fly. So if anyone ever takes a look at their GPU clock when they're playing a game, you'll notice that it's not stuck at one frequency typically. It's moving all around, and that's a result of NVIDIA GPU Boost to try to maximize the amount of performance on the graphics card and also save power as well. So it's a pretty innovative and unique feature as opposed to the old days when we just had one clock speed. Now we have one that moves all
similar
around.
to the Intel boost, right?
Similar to the way that Intel has done on CPU side for a long time.
I do find that feature that you talked about is a lot more useful for a creator workstation where you do need that stability because it's doing inside of the card. It's a little bit more stable. So if you're rendering a piece of content and it's taking 60 minutes, you'll see that curve go up and down as the CUDA cores are being engaged to render this particular frame or two, or this effect, or this Gaussian blur, or removing noise and other artifacts in the background.
Yeah, it's actually quite smart, and it's evolved over the years. It keeps getting better every generation. So it's looking at everything from the temperature of the card to the power draw to the frame rate of the system to know what GPU clock it needs to run at. So, for example, if you lock your frame rate, let's say you lock your frame rate to 60 frames per second, and it's an older title, your GPU may actually downclock because it only needs to run 60 frames per second. It's easy for the card to run that, and it doesn't need to run at 1200 megahertz or 2000 megahertz in order to do that. It may just lower down to 1600 megahertz or something. So that actually saves power. So it's a pretty neat feature.
So this has gotten so good over the years that do you foresee a time when EVGA might not focus on overclocking and might use those resources towards some other feature out there that we haven't discovered yet?
I think that's kind of already happened a little bit. I don't want to say like overclocking has gotten less important because it still is a significant feature and a lot of people like it, but I would say that in most cases you don't really have to anymore because the card already does it. So for sure, a lot of our some of our focus has shifted. I don't want to say shifted, but we've put a lot of resources into other areas as well. So like I mentioned, the cooling
RGB.
Yeah, the dreaded three-letter word again. Like the ICX cooling is definitely a big innovation where we, kind of moved some engineering into, and also the RGB lighting, fan sync design, cooling, and stuff like that has gotten a lot better.
I just want a murdered out card because I don't need the RGB. Just build me a murdered out card, just completely black.
That's why RGB is a three-letter word, but to some people it's a four-letter word. So we like
blackest black paint that you can put on there. I think what is it? It's like very expensive paint. It's like so black, Vanta black.
Oh yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
It's like you can't even see the card. It's not even in there.
99% of the light.
Well, the good thing about RGB and the EVGA cards is even when you turn it off, it still looks pretty good. So.
Oh yeah. Hey, you have that on-off switch on the back, right? On the side where you have on.
Not on that one, but you can turn it off from Precision. Another cool thing about RGB on EVGA cards is, and this is something that we did from a while back, is you can actually the RGB lighting on the card is actually saved on the firmware. So, that means that if you turn off the RGB, when you reboot your PC, before it gets to the operating system, it's still going to be off. If you take that PC to another, or if you take that card to another PC, it's still going to be off, Or if you remove the software, it's still going to be off because it's saved to the card's firmware. So I would say the RGB implementation is a little bit more native to the card, as opposed to it being just software, which is not as ideal because when you reboot, you're going to see the RGB turn on. You have to wait for Windows to kick in the software to say, okay, turn off the RGB now. So
with the EVGA, what kind of new features would you be looking at in the future that EVGA would integrate into the graphics card? Are we going to see anything special coming over the next year or so?
You have to wait and see. But I would say that I would continue to see advancements on cooling in particular. If you look at like the hybrid cooler that I mentioned before, it's like a closed loop cooler. There's still a lot of innovation left that can be done there to improve cooling across the entire card, not just GPU. I'm talking VRM memory, reducing the thickness of the card, so getting closer to like a we're at like triple slot now, so even dual slot, but maybe even thinner. It's possible with
like a
hybrid
single slot for sure.
Yeah, so I would continue to see. I would expect us to continue to see in innovations on the cooling, especially as cards continue to get require more and more power. You look at the 3090 Ti; it takes
a beefy boy.
It takes some power for sure. So cooling is becoming important.
Jacob, we talk about EVGA cards, and something I really like about EVGA, and that's when it was, I think it was a time when a period of people going crazy with mining, and there was like people price gouging, and there was like the prices were extortionate, and it was impossible to get a hold of graphics card. People were charging like thousands more over MSRP. Now, something I like about EVGA, and that is you kept your promise to keep prices at MSRP for people to log in to your page and, of course, book the graphics card. It may take like 3 to 6 months to get the card delivered, but hey, you were doing a really good job, and I loved this about EVGA. So this is something that EVGA will continue to do because it's something that people will be asking.
Sure. So that was called the EVGA Q system, and we actually created a couple of different. We improved it a few times. So I think we are at Q 3.0 now. So we've continually made improvements to the Q system to improve how quickly people get the card, how many people, making sure that only one person per household gets a card, so it's fair as possible. But definitely for future cards that are limited release and or very high demand, we will have a similar system to that. The whole intention is so that you don't have to wear out your F5 buttons and refreshing the page and waiting for it to go stock, so you can just, go in queue and go on about your life, and then hopefully sooner than later, you will get an email from EVGA that gives you 24 hours to check out. So
Nice,
Okay.
nice. I think I'll better start posting my submit my little request for a graphics card. I'm gonna have to wait for.
Hopefully
6 months,
not.
but anyway.
So basically, for the people at home who don't know what this is all about, it's to address the scarcity of GPUs out there. And if you want to order one today, you're going to have to wait with everyone else. Fortunately, because EVGA saw this coming, they were able to implement a ordering system on their website that actually queued for requests. And of course, you can cancel your order or your request and you would just move up the line. Because of this and because of some of the shipping restrictions, like you can't buy more than 2 per household, people were able to get GPUs as soon as they were available from EVGA, and that made things a lot more equitable. There obviously are other systems out there that use like your gamer tag or whatever to kind of put this in, but I think that because you guys are revision 3, you were doing this way at the beginning because you kind of saw this coming. Am I kind of all right with the explanation?
Actually, when the 30 series launched, we didn't have this type of system, and it wasn't until the overwhelming demand that we, as quickly as possible, implemented this system within a few weeks, I would say. And so
that's fast.
That was our our intention was to try to get cards to gamers in as fairly as possible, because at that time, there were a lot of people that were unfortunately trying to get cards to flip it, to try to make profit, unfortunately. And, we were just trying to get cards into as many gamer hands as possible. And so this was one of the methods that we came up, because a lot of the guys who were flipping it or whatever, they're using systems that buy it immediately before a human can actually click the button. You know what I mean? They have all these bots running and stuff.
Yeah.
So
Bots.
This was our way to try to be as fair as possible and try to kind of give actual humans a chance of buying a graphics card. Unfortunately, because of the demand in some situations, depending on when you signed up, there may have been a wait of a few months or longer. But we really put a lot of effort on this to try to get as many cards out there as possible into the system.
Yeah, I just got my 3060. Nice. It wasn't, but I just got one. Finally, after 2 years.
I did get one, but it's in my laptop. It's only a 3060. That's the mobile version. It works okay. Yeah, it's okay.
But I'm glad that you guys were out there proactively making it possible for gamers to actually game. I mean, it was a very tough time for everyone, because what else are you going to do at home? You want to game, but then you're 960 or 980.
And we definitely felt for all the fans who are trying to get EVGA graphics cards. So we wanted to come up with this program to try to help as much as possible.
And I think that's within your code of operations, which is to listen to the community, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
You actually listened to them and you implemented this. So thank you for doing that.
Yes. All right. So with graphics card, let's talk about EVGA's other products, and that's motherboards. So I've seen, of course, motherboards. EVGA's making Intel boards for a long time, and they've been really some enthusiast boards as well. But more recently, they've actually produced some AMD motherboards too. So, Jacob, let's talk about the Intel boards, and then we'll move on to AMD boards.
Okay, yes. So EVGA started shipping motherboards a long time ago. I think definitely more than 10 years ago, and even before. But one of the early motherboard successes on Intel was the Enforce 680i motherboard.
That's right.
It was actually, and so some people may not know this. Nvidia actually made motherboard chipsets at one point. They were called Enforce, and so the Enforce 680i motherboard was an Intel motherboard. EVGA sold this motherboard, very successful at the time. Was an excellent overclocking motherboard. When at that time, I would say overclocking was a little bit more of a rare feature on motherboards. Now it's kind of pretty commonplace, but the Enforce 680i was very robust for overclocking and was quite successful. And since then, we've continued to release Intel chipsets pretty much with every single Intel launch, mainly on the performance SKUs like the Z, Z chipsets. So the latest is the Z690 motherboards, and we have two motherboards. We have a Z690 classified, and we have the Z690 dark. And the Z690 dark is the flagship motherboard, the best overclocking functions on that one, and also a pretty unique feature. So if you take a look at the motherboard, I don't have one here, I wish I did, but if you actually look at the motherboard, a picture of the motherboard, you see the layout looks a lot different. And the reason for that is the CPU socket itself is actually rotated. So we rotate the CPU socket, and that means the memory needs to rotate as well. So if you look at the motherboard, the memory is actually at the top. So there's a couple of benefits to doing so. Number one, you're going to get better memory overclocking. So the Z690 Dark has some of the best memory overclocking that you can find on a motherboard. And two, it allows you to put all of the power connectors at the right edge of the board. So, like usually on a motherboard.
Oh, thank God.
Usually on a motherboard, you have the 1 or 2 8 pins up in the upper left corner. It's like the worst place for
the one you forget to plug
the one
in.
That you can never put radiator. It's always like hitting your fans and stuff. So if you look at the Z690 Dark motherboard, they're actually all on the right edge of the motherboard, which is really cool. And also for cable management, just looks a lot better. But in addition to that, they're pretty robust in features and overclocking. And we were talking about auto overclocking earlier, and the EVGA motherboards, all of them actually, have a very unique feature that actually in the BIOS can auto overclock for you and then set the overclock in BIOS. And it's all done from within BIOS. So it'll stress test from within BIOS. In addition to that, there's another feature that you can set an overclock level yourself manually, like usual, and then you can stress test that from within the BIOS. So you don't even need to have an operating system. So it's actually really cool, and that is built into all of I want to say all of them. Because some of the earlier ones didn't, but basically for the last 2 or 3 years, those have been in all EVGA motherboards, and it's a really cool feature.
Which motherboard is the eATX format? Is that the dark?
Pretty much all of
them. The guys you don't know who are eATX and ATX. You heard of the ATX. ATX is standard motherboard size, and eATX is extended
ATX, which is kind of funny because
so it's a bit wider.
These motherboards are not true eATX, and true ATX is actually even wider than this, but they are a little bit wider than ATX. So we just call them as eATX just to make sure that, they aren't going to fit into a lot of mid-tower cases. So if you have a case that says eATX, then it can fit these motherboards. But yeah,
it's a lot better than XL-ATX for sure. XL-ATX didn't fit in very many cases.
Very little. Yeah, XL-ATX. So XL-ATX was actually a form factor that was it XL-ATX or HPTX?
Was it HP?
Yeah. So I think XL-ATX was the one that was longer as well.
It's taller. Yeah. It had 9 slots on it. I have a board over there.
Yeah, we did that in order to support at the time 4-way SLI.
Yeah, that's right.
Oh,
that's right.
4-way.
Yeah.
4-way.
I have a board here somewhere. I won't bring it out because I don't want to offend anyone. But it is XL-ATX, 2 of them, one AMD, one Intel. The Intel one's still good to go. But the thing. It's tall. Like, it's actually inside a Cosmos case, the second edition, and that case is humongous. I can't put it in any other case.
So 4-way SLI, not so much a thing anymore, but 2-way SLI is still pretty good.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. What about earlier I mentioned the AMD board? So what made you get into AMD boards? Because you guys are always known for Intel boards. What made EVGA change course and go with an AMD board?
Yeah, it's kind of back to the community feedback. People have been asking for AMD motherboards for a long time. And finally, we kicked one off. Actually, quite some time ago, we started this project. it just took, our motherboards take a long time to develop because, we have a lot of features and quality that goes into them. So the X570 motherboard is the first. Actually, it's not the first. We actually did have an AMD motherboard, but it was an Enforce AMD motherboard. But this was like a long time ago.
Enforce something A, wasn't it? There was 680i and 680A, wasn't it?
Or no, 590. I think it was a 590.
Oh my god, that's even older.
It was before 680. Yeah.
Oh geez.
So,
I did have the 680.
That was the first AMD motherboard, but that was also the last one. There was also an Enforce 4 AMD motherboard, actually. So X570, yes, is I would call it the first EVGA modern AMD motherboard. So we have the FTW and we have the Dark, very similar feature set to the Intel boards. However, this one we do have ATX form factor because the socket is smaller, so we can actually make the motherboard smaller as well, as compared to the Intel board, which is quite a bit larger, the CPU.
So same cool features about rotating the socket.
Yeah, so on the Dark board,
all the headers.
Same features.
Nice.
Sockets rotated. You'll see the DIMM slots are at the top. Kind of looks like those old DFI motherboards, with the DIMMs at the top. Enforce
the LAN party.
Enforce 2.
Oh, DFI, I remember that.
Yeah, the LAN party.
Green and yellow slots.
I don't want to say the appearance looks like it because those are very vivid motherboards color-wise, but
unique.
The layout is kind of similar to those with the DIMM slots at the top. That's the X570 line. Pretty exciting.
Very nice.
Quick question. Your preference, Intel or AMD for those boards?
I don't have a preference.
You can't make him answer that.
I don't have a preference.
You can't make him do that.
But I will say that the
AMD
system
fan.
that we use on our stream, this one is an Intel 690 motherboard. So.
Right. There you go. Stability. Yeah. Okay. Cool.
But
cool.
I've used both. They're both
All
great
right.
platforms, and they are pretty close in performance to each other. So you can't go wrong. If you're looking for a gaming platform, you cannot go wrong choosing either one. They are both excellent platforms.
Yeah.
If you're creating, though, however, I have to say, compatibility-wise, with all the software package and everything like that, if you're a creator and you need mission-critical stuff happening in the background, you have to go Intel. That across the board, because you're going to have a better experience. If you're rendering a project that's 2 hours long and it crashes for any reason, it's not fun.
Yeah, this system, the system that we use on our stream, it's a 12900K, and that is that's a pretty awesome CPU.
It is.
All right, but the board's done. Let's move on to accessories. I know EVGA make accessories, keyboards, mice, headsets, the gaming kind of stuff, right? So I noticed over the last couple of years, you've been heavily into, or EVGA has been heavily into these gaming accessories. Of course, gaming is a big business as well. So tell us more about the accessories and where do you find the accessories is going to become a major part of your EVGA profile in terms of product line? Tell us a little bit more about your accessories.
We have a pretty, almost top-to-bottom lineup of accessories today, including mice. Actually, just mice and keyboards today. But expect to see more from EVGA on that one, as it is a category that we are continuing to expand and invest in. So if you just look at like the wireless mice, we have, the mice, we have wireless, we have wired, we have an MMO mouse, we have a low-cost entry-level mouse, which is really a pretty nice mouse for like less than $20. People like them a lot, and we're going to continue to make them.
Is that again based on customers' feedback? We need some extra RGB. Do you have any RGB?
Oh yeah, of
RGB
course.
Mice?
They're all RGB, aren't they?
But another kind of neat accessory feature is the capture devices. So I actually have one here, and this actually has RGB on it too.
Oh no!
Yes, I've got one of those. I have one of those I use it at home with the
XR1.
XR1,
we have
right?
two models. Technically, we had three. One of them is an older model that got replaced with the XR1 Pro. So we have the XR1 Pro, that's this one here, and then we have the XR1 Lite. So the XR1 Pro is the latest the latest capture device. And actually, this one is quite unique because it can support 4K 30 capture. It can also support 1440p 60, 1080p 60. It can pass through 4K 60. But the unique feature about this one in particular is this was somewhat recent. With a new firmware update, you can support VRR, or variable refresh rate. So this is one of the few capture devices that is able to support variable refresh rate. If you have an HDMI 2.1 certified monitor, then you can support that, and that's a game changer for capturing, because you weren't able to do that previously. We also have the XR1 Lite, which is I don't have one here, but it's a lower cost one. It can capture 1080p 60, and that one is very popular. We sell
Zoom
quite a
calls,
few
right?
of those that for people that are looking for, if you don't need 4K or 1440p, like consoles, or if you just 1080p, 1080p 60 is still pretty much all you need for if you're a streamer.
Yeah,
you
exactly.
really don't want to stream higher than that, because the platforms don't really support it that well. So 1080p 60 is still like the sweet spot for streaming.
And Zoom, and Teams, and Skype.
Yeah. The other
that.
kind of cool thing about these capture devices is when you plug, there's no drivers needed, and by no drivers, I mean like literally no drivers. I mean, yeah, Windows has a built-in driver for it, but you just plug it in and they work, because the operating system, Windows, sees it as a webcam device. So
That's right.
Not only is that good because you don't have to install drivers and update them all the time, but it also means that it works with virtually everything. So, your Zoom, your Skype or Discord, it'll work with everything.
Yep. I can vouch for that. Yeah, I just plug it in. OBS just works. OBS.
Yeah,
Streamlabs,
everything.
all
I
that.
mean,
It
let's just face it. Over the last
I've got one
couple
running.
years, it's not a competition, but it is a competition to have the best looking frame.
Yeah,
Right.
right. Yeah. You want to have the best looking frame, and with that, like the best way to get the best picture quality you're going to get for live streaming, or zooming. Do they say zooming? I don't think I've ever heard somebody say zooming, but
we just call it a call, and it doesn't matter what it is, Google Meets or whatever. We're just
I'm
on
going
the
to call it zooming.
Zoomers.
The best way
Zooming.
the way to get the best picture quality is to use a DSLR camera and use a device like this one to bring in the feed, because honestly, webcams, although have gotten better, they are in no comparison for a real camera. So
Yeah, because the DSLR camera has that auto focus on your face kind of thing. If I move my face around, it still auto focuses it. If I'm going in, zoom in or zoom out, the camera does it all. With a webcam, it's
Small sensors, small.
Can't quite do it yet. Yeah, so that's how I'm plugged in. I'm plugged in through the Alpha. Sony Alpha 6400, and that's connected out from a HDMI into the EVGA XR1, the original version.
Yeah, so the XR1 Pro, this one is a little bit newer. So this one, the difference between the XR1 and the XR1 Pro is this one can support 1440p 60 capture, and it also supports VRR. Those are the biggest differences from that one to this one.
I'm saying nothing. I'm not running any of that.
And the kind of cool feature about them as well is they're certified for OBS. So if you look on the back, there's actually a sticker.
It works.
I don't know if you can see that, but it's certified for OBS, and it's more than just a sticker actually, because early on in development, we actually send early prototypes to the OBS labs, and they have a pretty strict set of requirements for the capture device, even all the way down to latency, how much latency is in the device itself. So that is actually pretty cool.
So, is this OBS Streamlabs certification?
This is just OBS.
OBS open source. Okay. I just wanted to make that distinction because there is two of them out there, and it's kind of confusing for people to kind of figure out, what are you talking about? Like the free one or the one that you pay for that's owned by that other peripheral company?
This is OBS, so the free one, which is basically open source streaming, probably the most popular for live streaming and that kind of thing. Although it does work with everything else. You know, it'll work fine with Streamlabs. It'll work fine with, you know, any other streaming software that's out there.
Including this one.
It's a very, very important, very important piece of equipment out there. Very popular.
All right. Okay. So accessories all covered. Next, we move on to laptops. I noticed that EVGA has been making laptops.
They have a laptop?
We did.
Intel based.
Not anymore. We did. So
yes. Yeah. Not anymore. Is that something that you're going to be doing more of, or
not
just less
anytime
of?
soon, at least, because we're focused on other categories right now. But we did have 2 laptops at one point, the SC17 and SC15, and they were great devices. I use one every day, you know, as my main workstation. And they were really cool because they had a lot of pretty unique features as well, including my favorite feature of them was that it had a real BIOS. Like, not like a laptop BIOS with like three settings. You know what I mean? Like, you know, most laptops they have 4 or 5 settings in there. Like, here you can change the time and you can, you know, change your boot order, and that's about it. But these were like real BIOSes. Yes, you could overclock it. BIOSes? You could change your memory timings. You could set XMP. You can change your fan curves. Everything you could do from the BIOS, which was really cool. It even had a clear CMOS button on the laptop. Yeah.
Just in case, right?
Just in case you set something wrong. That was one of the features. Also, they had a full aluminum chassis, things like that. Really unique laptops. But some people still have them and they love them. But right now we're focused on a few other categories. So.
Yeah. I think laptop is a very
competitive space. Also, it's you know, it takes a lot of engineering resources, you know, to build a laptop, because you need to have software, firmware, BIOS, layout, ID designers,
thermal paste.
You know, it takes every aspect of a computer, you know, knowledge to build this. So.
That's right. Hey, listen, I know some manufacturers. I won't say any names, but they've been trying to make laptops. Good laptops, and they're not too bad, but they've been trying for like over 10 years. It begins with a G, you know who I'm talking about, but they've been just doing it for a long time. And it's just so hard to get on the you know, the space of laptops, and especially gaming laptops. You know, Razer's doing it really well. Asus, of course, and but other brands, it's tough to get in there, especially with gaming, creative, and all that kind of other categories. But
laptop needs are way different. I mean, you have to have a laptop that is like, sure, you can do a desktop replacement. By the time you figure out that, oh my God, it's $4,000, you might as well get a desktop, because you can't really take it anywhere technically, right? And you know, the push for the market right now is to have slim, light, and powerful. So those resources to design that and to integrate and to optimize. Yeah, you're spending the whole resource of one company to do that when you could be doing so many other things really well. So you're right, Jacob. It's a good space to kind of get out of. Yeah. But you do so many other things really well, and I think that's a really good way to.
I mean, we still keep an eye on it, but it's just not a focus for EVGA right now.
It could be an opportunity for you to look at, like we were discussing a little bit earlier about, you know, having things that complement what's already existing in the market, like external
a lot
GPUs.
Of the peripheral devices that we have today, obviously mice and keyboard work great with laptop, wireless, Bluetooth devices. Like we have wireless mouse, Bluetooth. You know, the capture devices. You know, the capture devices work great on laptops. If you have a main streaming PC, you can use a laptop. It doesn't have to be a high power laptop to use as your capture. You know, so.
That's what I'm doing right now with my mobile.
Exactly.
That's great, Jacob. Thank you. All right. Okay, cool. So, quick question, another question. You might not be able to answer. What can we expect for the next line of GeForce RTX?
Well, like I said previously, I've never heard of that before. So.
They don't exist.
Mr. Lover. Lovelace. Anyway, we'll know more about that when it comes. Looking at probably Q3, 4, maybe. Who knows? But it does. You know what to get. Yes, it's the EVGA graphics card.
And they have a queue.
All right. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Join their queue system.
We've actually used the queue for not only graphics cards, but you know, any kind of products in the future that are high demand, maybe low availability. Maybe it's a motherboard, in the future that we may have a queue on. So yeah, that you can expect to see that for all. I don't want to say all products need the queue, but definitely ones that are in super high demand. You can expect to see that.
Right. Okay, so let's talk about a little bit more about you, Jacob. What kind of interests do you have? What interests do you have? Tell us.
That's my main interest.
You said it was 24/7.
Yeah, that's my main interest, definitely. Obviously, gaming. I've been a huge gamer since I was a kid. And it's kind of funny that I ended up in this industry because the first ever 3D accelerated video game I saw was Quake 2. With a 3D effects Voodoo 2, and I could not.
That's right.
I mean, it
Voodoo.
like blew my mind. I'm serious. It literally did. And so from that day forward, I think I was a changed man. So I'm pretty happy to be happy and pretty fortunate to be in this industry. So yeah, I'm a huge gamer. Been so pretty much all my life.
But you also do a live show.
Yes,
is that every week?
Every
you say?
Friday.
I remember
At 3 p.m. Pacific time.
Is that mostly gaming or EVGA kind of like
it's
products?
both, yeah.
Or is
So usually we do we talk about the latest in EVGA. If it's a new product or whatever, and then we play some games, either the latest game, or we play community games as well, which is a lot of fun. We play games with our community, with the viewers. Fall Guys is a lot. Fall Guys is free, and it's a lot of fun to do that with because it's free and it's really easy to make a community lobby in Fall Guys. So, and actually this Friday,
it's
the 15th. We are having a 12-hour stream, so we'll see how long I can.
12-hour stream.
I can last.
Wow.
But it should be okay.
But also, Jacob, you do like the exhibitions and shows. Of course, in the US they have the PAX, right? East and the West, and that's something that you also do, right?
Have not done in some time, unfortunately, due to the pandemic.
Because of the COVID, right?
But yes, typically we have booths at PAX. In fact, the last one I went to was in Boston, and that was literally I want to say a few weeks before everything shut down. That was it was pretty crazy.
Yeah,
that was the
fast.
first time that I saw people actually wearing masks, and at that time it was kind of nobody was doing it, so it was kind of strange to see, but. After that, everything changed. After that, so we are kind of getting back to the normal. I would say that it's still not quite normal yet, but I think probably within a year, hopefully, we can kind of get back to normal. We can start going to shows again. Yeah, even Computex. I haven't been back to Computex.
We'll get to meet
in years.
Yeah.
So
oh god, I love Computex.
I don't care about Computex. I just miss Taiwan, in general. It's such a cool place,
Definitely.
Right, but I miss the people too, of course.
Yeah, yes, of course. Stephen, carry on. What other questions you like to answer? Or
so
ask
Jacob? In the peripheral space, it's extremely competitive, right? You guys kind of came up from the hardware side, going upwards, where other competitors have come the other way. Who do you see as your biggest competitors, and where do you see yourself kind of your biggest advantage to staying relevant and also fresh?
Yeah, I'm not sure of the biggest competitors because pretty much everybody has mice and keyboard these days, it seems, so everybody carries everything. So we kind of stay focused on the EVGA feature set where we can improve. But I would say that the kind of key benefits of EVGA is kind of goes along with what we were saying before, that we really pay attention to our customers and what they're looking for, and that's going to continue to go into the future iterations of products. And the mice and keyboard that you see from EVGA are really just the first versions of EVGA's entry into this market, so you can continue to see better products come from that, better features, more robust software, things like that. That I think that's kind of plays to EVGA's core advantage, that we've done for many years is continue to improve upon each product that we have and listen to the feedback.
Now, do you see yourself picking up some of the niches and making them wider? Now, I know that right now, as it stands, and a little bit lesser to the mouse side, but keyboards, custom-built keyboards, are becoming extremely hot. They're growing in popularity, where people are like cutting stabs and greasing up their keys and everything like that, and building these amazing handmade, hand soldered RGB keyboards, which I'm like, wow, and the connectors and everything. Do you think you would be jumping in that space and providing a gateway into that world for a mass market?
I can see that, because that also plays into EVGA's core customer, which is a DIY customer who likes to put things together. And if you look at one of the products in particular, the Z15 keyboard is almost, it has some features of that. The Z15 keyboard, you can remove the entire switch assembly, which is it's a 3-pin switch, and you can mix and match different switches on that keyboard. So that keyboard does have an element of customizability. Definitely it can be taken farther than that, though. So that is one of the features that people like about that particular keyboard. So, I would expect to see some more innovation in that direction as well from EVGA.
Yeah, I think you guys are the right people to do that. Like you said, you have a community that's already providing you feedback. You have the know-how and the expertise to build these things into modular parts. I mean, you've done it in the past where you have such innovative products and engineering know-how that, you can provide an experience that's fun for people to kind of get them started and then push, and then they can decide where they want to go after that.
You can build your own. I mean, that's kind of back to the dreaded 4-letter word RGB, but being able to customize the graphics card look, basically RGB has been, or like on the KingPin cards, you can change the LCD. People want to customize it to match their rig, and so I see like the fully modular keyboard approach similar to that. It's just taking it one step further to customize it to your system or your setup.
Yeah, I mean, with streaming and content creators, I mean, I've noticed people now having keyboards with options like twiddly knobs and things like that for that kind of feature. Especially if I'm a streamer, especially I do live shows, then you need something with a keyboard that has all these
there's
buttons and things like that, switching screens.
I would say there's a little bit of a change on in the general direction of the market. Previously it was, a gaming gaming keyboard was really just for gaming, but nowadays, gamers can also be streamers. Those are content creators, right? So, and they have a different set of needs. They may have different buttons as well, imagine, or, like, how about buttons that integrate with the OBS to start and stop your streams, change your scenes in OBS, things like that. So those are all opportunities there as well. Yeah,
because I have a separate little the Stream Deck thing from your other competitor. It's a separate thing, and I have to go and connect that up. And hey, if I had all those buttons on my keyboard, a wireless one, perfect. I can carry that around, and I'm all set. I'm all set because it's like wireless, and have all those buttons ready to go. Already pre-programmed my settings, switching screens.
Yeah, actually, this
and all that kind of stuff.
Going back to this XR1 Pro, it actually has that we didn't talk about at all. It actually has a unique feature for streamers as well. This knob on here actually is a basic, but it's an audio mixer. You can adjust the volume of the mic directly from here. So I could see more of that type of innovation being put onto keyboards as well, for streamers in particular.
Yeah. Nice.
Is there anywhere that we haven't gone? Like, is there something on a napkin in the EVGA Innovation Lab that we have not even wow, they've gone this way? Can we talk about the future?
I would say that there's always new avenues to go and look at. So I don't think you've seen the end of wow, I can't believe EVGA has something like that. type of products yet.
So an electric vehicle, like when is that coming out?
That one's soon. Yeah.
That one's soon, right? You're taking pre-orders right now?
Yeah, it's in the queue.
Here's a nice picture.
It's in the queue.
It's in the queue. It's in the queue.
But it's an RC car.
Yeah.
I mean, I can see EVGA actually producing a lot of streaming equipment because that's a big sector.
Not only that,
not
only is it's becoming increasingly important, but I think that there is a real lack of useful tools for streamers. I think there is a lot of opportunity to improve how easy it is for streamers. And that isn't really being addressed today, or can be improved upon.
Or even widening the scope of streamer. It's not just about gamers. I know personally a lot of teachers,
right,
instructors. They're teaching at universities right now, but they don't have the tools to kind of make their like in person versus not in person is a very different experience, right? And these teachers are struggling with coming out with really engaging ways to make sure that all the squares are not popping off and going somewhere else.
Yeah.
And like to have these tools to be able to allow them to switch to different scenes or make it easy for them, but talking to them not as a gamer but as someone who creates content, I think is an opportunity that someone can pick up and really help out, because there's a lot of teachers out there. They're really great. They just need some help. Yeah,
definitely. So, yeah, I could see. I think there's still a lot of innovation left to be done there, and so, yeah, I would hope to see more there.
And an electric car. Pre-orders coming up soon.
All right.
Yeah,
an electric car. Yeah, definitely. Maybe a mobile phone as well.
Who knows, right?
Hey, my money, don't jiggle. It falls. All right, okay. So any final words, Stephen, before we close up?
Great to chat with you again, Jacob. Yeah. It's been a long time since I've been in the space.
It's been too long. So hopefully we can meet up at a show again soon.
Computex, or just in Taiwan in general, shows, running around.
Yep. Or somewhere local like Las Vegas, right?
Yeah, haven't been to in a while. So
yeah, I can take a drive down to Southern California and trial all your EV charging stations and see if they work.
Oh yeah, there's quite a few of them around here, so it should be good.
Right on.
All right, okay. So thank you guys for joining the show, and of course, a big thank you to Jacob for coming on the show. It's been great to learn about you, and of course, EVGA, of all the new products and stuff like that. So, Jacob, where can we find you?
Well, of course, EVGA
media?
You can find on all social media at Team EVGA. Me personally, you can find at EVGA_JacobF.
Right. And of course, to get in that queue, you have to go to evga.com to order your graphics card. And is it free shipping within the continental U.S. still, or
yeah, and Canada too?
Wow. Okay. Oh, see, there you go.
Really? Free shipping?
Done.
Done. I'm down for that. I'm going to do it. That's it. I sold.
My God.
I got to order my next one.
And of course, you can find me at Stephen Fung on Twitter, Instagram, and that's where I hang out. Winston, where can people stalk you?
Yeah, on Instagram. It's my personal one, so you won't find any of my tech stuff there. It's mostly just me, food, fashion, and expensive taste. You can find me at Instagram at Winston Chim, and also at Twitter at Winston Chim. That's it.